So those are just some of the reasons you want to do user-centered interviewing. Let's now talk about how you do it. So this is a traditional, if we were able to go outside, and this is what I would do if we weren't in a remote setting, I'd have you go out and watch a situation. Typically I have students go to the MU. And there's this exercise called AEIOU that I'll show you in a minute. And what you want to do is really just watch a situation. You can do this if you're like at an airport or any kind of public place. Watch a situation and just start to imagine like what's going on here, right? Maybe you're out and you're like, are they on a first date? Like what's going on there? Like did they just make up after a fight? Like what's happening, right? Imagining like what's going on. And so generally, very colloquially, this is, people watching. But what is cool about being an ethnographer, a design ethnographer, is that you can watch a situation. Now you have a task in mind. You're not just looking for gossip, right? But you have a goal in mind. And what you're going to say is, I wonder what's happening there. That guy keeps, putting on his backpack and taking off. And then what you can do is then you can follow up and be like, hey, I'd love to talk to you about, what it's like to sit in a public place, right? And maybe you're looking for clues as to like some interesting behavior that you can follow up and get more sense of through interviews. So here is the AEIOU tool. And basically what it is you would go into a space where you can observe things, and you can do this remotely, but it's a richer experience if you're out in public. But basically, what are the activities, right? So it's like, let's say I'm in a park. People are walking dogs. There's people having picnics. There's people jogging. There's someone doing a yoga class on the grass, right? There's a kind of dog that's running loose. All the different activities happening. And then environments. What are the environments? Well, there's the park area, there's a sidewalk, there's a crosswalk, right? There's a jungle gym, different elements or subcategories of this place you're in. Then interactions, right? People are people, buying ice cream from a vendor? Are they playing soccer? Like, how are they interacting? What's happening there? And then what are all the objects, right? Is there built-in exercise equipment? Is there a slide on the jungle gym? Is there, a soccer field? Are there goalposts? Are there water fountains? All the different things that make up the environment. And then finally, who's there, right? Are there, how would you categorize them? Saying people isn't enough. You want to say, well, there's soccer players, there's coaches, there's dog walkers, there's, families, there's kids hang out, there's, kid on his tricycle, all kinds of ways of breaking down the situation. So that's AEIOU. That's a very useful tool, and it's handy to actually have like a paper in your logbook that you can use when you're observing things. So AEIOU is particularly best when you're in an environment where you can observe quite a bit. It's going to be difficult to use over video. But what you can do with video, which often can get richer data, is doing interviews. So let me give you an example of how to interview. So first rule is that you want to listen more than you talk. You want to give a little bit of context. Hey, I'm working on this project about X, Y, and Z. I'd love to hear your thoughts, right? But mostly you want them to be talking. This is not a chance for you to like make new friends by telling them how much you know about it or your thoughts about it. You want to understand what they know because you already know what you know. The next is you want to ask open-ended questions. So an open-ended question is one where you allow them to kind of take it where they want it to go. So an example would be like, I saw you getting ice cream. How was that for you? That's an open-ended question, right? Because maybe they hate ice cream. Maybe they're just doing it to, please their brother, right? So you want to, now if you say like, oh, ice cream, it's delicious, huh? That's not an open-ended question. It's also very leading, right? Because they're going to feel pressure to be like, yeah, it is delicious. Or another example of a not open-ended question could be like, oh, how many times a year do you get ice cream? 12. And then you're going to be stuck because they're not going to, you've asked them a closed question with a bounded answer, and then there's nothing more than them to say. So the reason you want to ask an open-ended question is it allows them to bring up what's meaningful to them. And that's going to help you understand their point of view in a much more efficient way. The other thing you want to do is seek stories. So if you ask them, hey, how was that for you? That's going to open up space for them to start to talk about what's meaningful to them. And then Stories are great because they help you to understand a lot about a person in a very condensed way, right? So asking things that will help elicit stories like, oh, what was your best experience getting ice cream, right? What was it? What was the worst experience? Like, have you, can you tell me about your best day, right? Things like that can start to tell you what their value system is. And if you frame it in that way, they'll be like, well, it was summertime and it was this and that. And they're going to add all these little details into it that will help you learn about them through the story they're telling. So stories are key. Another thing is show that you're listening through good follow-ups, right? You mentioned a little while ago that when you got ice cream, like it was summer and you were on vacation. Can you say more about that? Right? It shows them that you're listening. You also want to just do good body language where you're like nodding and just showing that you're active. You do not want to be like on your phone or looking around if someone's nearby. And then the final piece of this is the overarching goal is you really want to learn how your respondents view the world. Right? So they might have a radically different understanding of it than you. That's okay. That's actually good. It can be uncomfortable, especially if it's a more sensitive topic where you feel like, oh, I don't like, that's not how I think about it. I think they're wrong, and I don't like that, right? That's perfectly natural. What you want to do is put that aside. It's not that you're not going to have that feeling, and that's perfectly normal, but what you want to do is you need to understand where they're coming from so that if someone has some really kind of problematic idea that is problematic for the thing that you're looking to develop, then you need to know how they think about it so that you might have a chance of kind of influencing the behavior towards something that seems preferable to you or your project. So, okay, listen more than you talk. That's key. Ask open-ended questions, seek stories, show listening through good follow-ups, and learn how they view the world. This is your chance to talk to them and get an understanding of what's going on for them, right? How do they see things? And the more that you can do that, the more material you'll have to potentially develop something that will delight them.